young generation. So
Yes.
I think you also have some this feeling of and love to the young generation.
Yes.
So I think if you have some comments to the young generation working for the peace, or not, still they don't have too much interest, but they had a possibility to have
Yes.
concern and passion about this movement. So could you give us some
Yeah.
comment or this advice?
Hope for that.
Yeah, what is the hope for the younger generation? I think every generation has a similar hope, and that is to make the world a better place. I think most young people, or many young people, are interested in doing that, making the world a better place, because they see the world that their parents and their grandparents have left, and it is broken, and it's there's a lot of sadness in it, and so I would say that, and every generation sees that. So I would tell this current young generation that you have a lot of energy now. You have a lot of idealism, and you should follow that. You should let that motivate you to go out and change the world. I can tell you now that the world is not going to change completely. You're not going to create a perfect world. But that's not the challenge. The challenge is to live a life of integrity in the world that you find. To live in the world as best you can as an individual and as a member of society. And be committed to at least one small way of doing it. Not try to change the whole world at one time. But maybe you're interested in art. Contribute your art to the peace and happiness of the world. If you're a good speaker, contribute your speaking ability to those pursuits. You're good in business. Do business well in a way that will raise people up and encourage them. You can't do everything. Choose something, even if it's one small thing. If you work in a shop selling rice, make that your vocation, especially as a Christian. We would say that would be your vocation, to be the best rice seller you can be, and to change the world in that your one place as a rice seller, whatever it is. And remember that, as someone has said many times before, this is something that you choose that's worth doing, that you think is worth doing. It's going to take more than your lifetime. It's going to take longer than your lifetime, but commit your life to it, even in a small way.
Wow.
Elitist, who, and sometimes even in Christianity, you have this theological idea that you can tell how much God is blessing you by how many material blessings you have in your life. To me, that's just the antithesis of Christianity. And it has nothing to do with what Jesus taught us. The idea of vocation, that every person, no matter what they do, taking great pride in that, and seeing it as something given to them by God.
Agree.
It's important, yeah. So,
I think I remember the time that the Soviet Union was just collapsed. At the time I was in elementary school.
yes.
I remember the playground and so with my friends. Did you see on the news? Soviet Union, collapsed.
Yeah.
I was a children as a child. So I remember the strange feeling happening in my mind.
Yeah.
So this year is 100 years when it was occupied by Japanese colony. But my friends and I just talk about that. we don't want to just feel the 100 years of Chelsea. We want to make this year as the first year of the peace of our history. So we just are doing something like that.
Making some project.
Right.
Some prayer time, etc. Prayer meeting. So
Actually, some feeling and inspiration from God is calling to us as a peace generation because we never experienced the occupation in the world in democratic stressful. We are born after all the accidents will happen. So nowadays our mission will maybe make a reconciliation and have some relationship together. After the historical stressful times gone, it's time to love each other and make us some new kind of world together.
Right.
So that's why we are here.
Right. Well, I would say too that love is important, honoring people is important, but one of the things that you have to remember, I think, is that there are certain elements within your society that have helped you to create a society that is free and open. And those are things that you really can't give up. I remember when a few years ago there was a situation where in Denmark there was in a newspaper there was published a cartoon of Muhammad with a bomb on his head. And so there was a lot of disturbance about that, and people actually went into the streets and protested, and people were killed over it. And here in Hong Kong, in our interfaith group, we had a lot of discussion about this, especially through email. We emailed each other and shared ideas about this. And we found that there were quite different ideas about what is right and what's not right in terms of speech, for instance. And I remember a conversation I had on email with a friend who was Muslim. And his idea was that there are some things that you simply cannot say. They would say, people of goodwill know that there's a line you draw, and you can't go beyond that line. There have to be lines in society. And my point of view, coming from America, and this made me understand how American in some ways I really was, is that when it comes to free speech, those are not clear lines. That let's say in Denmark, these people have the right to draw a cartoon that makes fun of someone's prophet. And that may make us sad, it may make us angry, but those same rules protect us in our religious statements too. So for instance, why my Muslim friend would say, this was wrong, you can't allow this in society. I would say that in the same society, in this Danish society, that is a Christian country, Muslims have the right to make material, to create, to print material, to print books, and to go out on the street and to preach the idea that Jesus Christ is not divine, that Jesus Christ is not God. In a Christian country, they have the right to do this. And so, to me, that's something we have to be careful when we're talking about toleration, when we're talking about reconciliation. There are certain elements that allow us to be tolerant. There are certain elements in our society, there are certain laws that we have, certain ideas that are important to us in our society that help us within our society to promote tolerance, to promote peace, to promote pluralism, for instance. And we have to hold on to those things. We simply cannot give those things up in the pursuit of peace, because they are what really allow us, and what's becoming a more and more pluralistic world, to maintain everyone's peace. not just the peace of one group.